Using salvage steel tubing to make a turkey blind. William Hovey Smith, 2019. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading and other prize-winning outdoor books, and in this video we actually fabricate a blind for our turkey season. I'm also the author of Create Your Own Job Security, which is a book about entrepreneurship that encourages people to start their own businesses at any time, at any age, to raise whatever money they need at the time. Now, this is the first of maybe 5 videos in this series. The first, of course, the salvage steel tubing. In the next one, I'll tell you how I use salvage wood to make a shooting rail. The third one, I show you how I set up the blind, actually out there in the woods. The fourth is a rainy day turkey hunting story, and we have a lot of those in Georgia right now. And the fifth is maybe turkey success from a homemade blind, if I'm able to get one from my blind.
This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And I'm in my shop during turkey season because we are experiencing one of our frequent springtime thunderstorms. And so what I'm going to be about doing is making a portable blind. Now, I recovered from my favorite supply house, the Dempsey Dumpster, these thin steel poles. And they are segmented, although, as you see very well, white color. So, we're going to paint these, and we're going to put these in the ground and use them as a frame to drape our camo cloth here. Now, this is burlap, and I've used it on my duck boat for years. So it's about time it got replaced anyway. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and sacrifice this and build up a couple of blinds. I'm also going to have to make a special tool for driving these into the ground because this stuff is thin, and I'm going to need to mount sections one in the other to get the height I want. So consequently, I can't deform this head too terrible much. So we're going to make a tool, as I say, to do that. This is 2 of our rods joined together. And sitting down, it's obviously too tall for a support rod. So we're going to have to cut it. Now we're going to put a shooting rail on this. This piece will cut 1 by. And that's going to raise it approximately 1 inch. It's also going to go 6 inches in the ground. So ideally, you like to have your shooting rail right about here. But we're going to put it 6 inches in the ground, so that makes the height here. We're going to add a shooting rail on top, which gives another inch there. So this is about where we need to cut. Right about there. Okay. So that establishes that distance. Now this end, since it's sort of tapered, would be, what we'd want to drive in the ground. And we have how many of these that have tapered ends? We have 5 poles that can actually be driven in the ground of unequal lengths. Well, we're going to trim them all to this length anyway, but at least now I know. Okay? These other sections are of uniform length. Oh, there's one more. Okay. One more that's tapered. All right, that's good. Okay, so that gives us 1 more. That gives us 6 poles, like that. So our first task is going to be to cut these off to approximately the same length. Now, what tools to use? This is flimsy stuff. If I put it in a chop saw, we'll we'll try one and see how that does. That would be faster, but it might also deform the ends like this under pressure. We'll see if that happens. Or I could do it with a hacksaw, zip, with a Dremel tool. And so we're going to see which works best. I'm going to bring up the chop saw and we'll see what we can do with it. I've laid the rods against the shop wall, and we see that even some of these tapered ends are not the same length. So I'm going to have to pare each piece when I cut them so that I wind up with something that's uniform all the way through. So I guess the lesson here is don't assume that found components are the same, because obviously they are not. So this pair gets numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Likewise, unequal pieces of each are going to be cut. So we cut here, 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 here. And that way I can put them in the chop saw and keep up with what's where. This is Harbor Freight's version of a chop saw. And it looks like a good chop saw, but I find it is not very effective. I can't cut 1/4 inch steel with it very well. This is thin stuff, so it should gnaw through it pretty well. So we will start her up and see what happens here. Okay. That works. Gave a good uniform cut. So all right, we can get this done in a hurry. Now that I have these ends trimmed to approximately the same length, 2 other problems immediately present themselves. First off, this is a turkey blind, and these are white. So I'm going to paint them black ultimately. The second is I'm going to drive them 6 inches in the ground. This is thin, flimsy stuff. If I put a hammer on this, these are going to deform to the point that I might not be able to drive them at all, or bend or split or whatever. So I need to put some reinforcing in these top ends here. One of the ends of those rods had a wooden piece in it, and I'm thinking I need to make a piece of wood to go about this far down in each of these tubes, cement those in, pin those in. This will then allow me to drill through the rod and the wood so I can actually run a small piece of cord through here to hold up the cloth material in the blind, whilst I also leave room for attaching this as a shooting rail. So consequently, I'm going to need a piece of wood that inserts in here about 3 inches long. Rather than starting from absolutely raw wood, I have these pieces of cut off 1x here that will allow me to make 1 or perhaps 2 inserts per block and still give me enough space on this side that I can handle it, meaning I can put it on my grinder, or I can put it on my sanding wheel to turn it down until I get something that I can get a jam fit down to about 3 inches or so. So we're going to proceed to split these in half with a bandsaw and then turn them down on the grinder. Since this is going to be a pretty slapdash business, I cut more pieces than I need. So if I mess up some, which is likely, I'll have plenty more left. And now we go to the grinding cabinet so I can reduce this so it will fit inside here, about that far down. Well, we have our 6 roughs here, and I'm going to go ahead and put them on the belt sander and finish them off. Since I have the belt sander, I'll go ahead and use it. Now, for those who are precisionists, I'm not one of them, guys. I'm an engineer officer. So I take what I got and I make what I need. And it may not be pretty, but it's functional and strong. So we're going to rough these out to round, and as we go, fit them here. And ultimately, we'll get pieces that we can insert, glue in, and will support this thin, flimsy metal. Here is my shoe glue here. One reason I'm using this particular adhesive, that it's flexible, and this is going to take an impact loading, and so I want the bond to stay there such as it will form between the wood and the metal. It's also waterproof, so consequently this will help protect this wood from rotting, since it may be up there for, well, some years actually. Once I put them in, I don't plan to move this thing. And put a good dollop on there. Okay. Push it in. The excess goes on the next one. A little extra. Push that in. Excess goes on the next one. And we are done. Now this will sit here and dry whilst I do other stuff. In fact, I have to make a tool, and so I'm going to tell you about that next. Even with the wood reinforcement in the top of these thin steel tubes, if I try to strike these directly with a hammer, it's going to deform the top of the tubes, and I need a way to support it as I drive it. So I'm going to make a tool, and I'm going to use this drill to deepen the hole in this 2x4 so that I can make a drive hammer that I can put over the top of this that will support the top of this tube as I drive it in the ground. Because remember, this thing is going to be over well, not quite 3 feet long. So I need to support that as much as possible as I drive it in. Okay, using this scrappy piece of wood, I went ahead and put it on the bandsaw and obviously trimmed it as you see. And now I'm going to shape it on the sanding belt and make it a little more aesthetically pleasing. And this also lightens weight, gives me something less to carry in the field, and also solves the problem of how do you attach a handle. And deepen this hole, and then we'll have something that we can actually use. For a twice repurposed and reused piece of wood, my drive tool here is now taking shape. As you see, I put a more comfortable handle on it. And I've also got it in the drill press, so I'm about to deepen that hole. And yeah, that's looking pretty good. Yeah. This is about a ½ inch or so. So that will likely do, I think. Now use a soft mallet on this side. So yeah, that should work. So I'm going to go ahead and try to drill my holes. And what I'm going to do is use these small nails for pins, and I'm going to put 2 in here, one about here and one about here. The way I'm securing these restraining nails is to take the vice grips and then bend them like this as far as I can. And then put them in the vise and flatten them against the side of the tubing. One of the reasons for putting that piece of wood in this top is so I could drill a 1/4 inch hole through this thin material and have it supported. And now I have a nice clean 1/4 inch hole. I presently have 6 support stakes put together. But if I do one more, then I'll be able to have 3 across the front, then 2 and 2, which will give me a stronger support than having the sides of the blind supported by only a single stake at the end. So what I'm going to do is these 2 pieces don't fit together, so I'm going to splice it. I'm going to take one of my sticks, turn it round all the way, put it in here, let half of it extend into the other side, and then go ahead and cut and finish this end just like I've done the others. I'll actually cut and finish this end first, because once I have it together, this particular stick will be together. I drilled a hole so I could put 1 pin in to anchor this piece of wood firmly while I apply glue. And these other parts. That's what I want to have happen. If these 2 pieces of metal come down and fit right jam on top of each other. Okay, and so they do. So we're going to let this cure for a while, then put another pin here and 2 more here. I've got 3 holes drilled and pinned in our same diameter poles that we are splicing together. So yeah, everything's going according to plan thus far, and it looks like we'll get it done. Well, fellas, we're now ready to paint. And what I'm going to use is this spar varnish here, which y'all have seen before in my turkey hunting stuff, because it is black and opaque. And it does tend to waterproof. It's pretty thick and viscous, as you see. So this actually can fill some holes. And I do have a better brush. All right, now we get started. A little extra there on that end. Protect that end grain. All right. So that can be set aside now. Since this already has paint on it, that's good, even though the paint is white, which is not. But so it's in effect been primed already. Now this is duct tape, and I put it on there to seal these joints. Plus, you recall that these parts, many of them are different lengths, and so they fit only one of the poles. So this keeps them all together. And I don't have to worry out there in the woods if I've got the top of one pole and the bottom to another. So once they're painted, they're going to be together forever, guys. Now this is the part that's actually going to go into the ground. All right. That looks pretty good. Okay, only got 6 more to go. And here we have basically essence of turkey blind. This is a drape, and it's over the top of the shooting rail. This strip retains the drape on the shooting rail in the front of the blind. These are your support stakes. We're going to attach these zip ties to a cord which will string out to the sides. This is a driving hammer for actually driving the stakes in the ground. And then this is what you hit the top of the hammer with. So you employ it like that, because this is rather thin tubing and you need to support it as you drive it. And so there we are. And it'll dry out overnight and finish. And then hopefully we'll take it and put it out in the woods tomorrow.
Besides extreme muzzleloading, in which I talk about turkey hunting, I also talk about turkey hunting and backyard deer hunting, and how to take turkeys with crossbows and crossbow hunting. I have a series of e-books on muzzleloading, and several of these also discuss turkey hunting. My new business book is Create Your Own Job Security. In this book, I advocate that people start their own businesses as and when they are needed, perhaps as early as high school, and actually start a business whilst you're working for someone else. So if you should be in your 40s and suddenly laid off and find it difficult to find a job again, you already have your business already going and running in the background. Then, even in older age, when you just need something to do, guys, yeah, you can start a little business. Now, this is one of my Billy Joe Rubidoux products, where I take what I have and make what I need. Now, in a later video, I'll actually tell you about Billy Joe. But Now, I picked up these steel poles about 5 years ago, and friend Roger said he'd like to have a ground blind, and so I made him one. For more information on my books, blogs, and nearly 750 videos, you can go to my website, www.hoviesmith.com. For more information on my business books, you can go to createyourownjobsecurity.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.